Good morning. Good morning. The Honorable Mr. Rimsky-Yuan, Secretary for Justice, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the open session of the 39th International Conference of Data Protection and Privacy Commissioners. I'm Michael from the Hong Kong Privacy Commissioner's Office. This is my colleague, Carol. We would like to extend a special warm welcome to those of you who have traveled long distances from all over the world to join us on this occasion. Our office is very proud to play host to the 39th International Conference. Since we last hosted the event in Hong Kong in 1999, it is the first time in the last 18 years that this major gathering has been held in Asia. Furthermore, this conference is one of the major events celebrating the 20th anniversary of the establishment of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. We are indeed privileged to have over 700 guests, speakers, and delegates with us here today. The attendance has well exceeded our expectations. As a result, we have taken up several more meeting rooms upstairs and next door to accommodate the extra participants. And those guests are watching this ceremony via a live feed.
Today and tomorrow will be the open session of this week-long events. This conference carries the theme of connecting West with East in protecting and respecting data privacy. We have got a lineup of distinguished speakers from around the world to share their insights. In particular, we will also look at the privacy culture and evolving data protection landscape in Asian jurisdictions. We are confident that the next 2 days program will be filled with stimulating discussions and hopefully spark debates in new subjects.
To kick off our conference, we will invite our guest of honor, the Honorable Mr. Rimsky-Yuan, Secretary for Justice of the Hong Kong Government, to deliver the opening. May I invite Mr. Yuan to the podium, please.
Mr. John Edwards, Mr. Stephen Wong, representatives of data protection authorities, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On behalf of the government of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, may I extend our warmest welcome to all of you here, especially to those who came from overseas jurisdictions to participate in this conference. The International Conference of Data Protection and Privacy Commissioners was first convened in 1979 and has since become the annual premier global forum for data protection authorities and stakeholders in the private sectors for almost 4 decades. We are extremely glad to see the return of this conference to the Hong Kong SAR 18 years after we first hosted it in 1999. Hong Kong is an international city. We always welcome exchanges with the international community on issues of common interest. Data and privacy protection, of course, fall within this category. What makes the return of this conference to Hong Kong even more delightful is that it coincides with the 20th anniversary of the establishment of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. An array of celebration activities have been staged, and the holding of this conference is one of them. Besides, the holding of this conference in Hong Kong also gives us an opportunity to demonstrate our steadfast commitment to personal data privacy protection, as well as our willingness and readiness to cooperate with the international community in enhancing such protection. The theme of this year's conference is connecting West with East in protecting and respecting data privacy. Allow me to say that this is a very well-chosen theme. The connection of the West with the East is a natural consequence of globalization as well as the advance of technology. Social media, e-commerce, and other forms of internet connection have greatly facilitated communication and cross-boundary activities between the West and the East. In the past, people said, who controls petroleum controls the world. Nowadays, people say, who controls data controls the world. This change vividly reflects the growing importance of data. As a matter of fact, data do play an increasingly important role in improving our life and also the information economy, whether in the context of big data, the Internet of Things, or artificial intelligence. However, the more data is being used in our everyday life, the higher the risk of abuse, whether intentional or otherwise. And hence, the more important it is to ensure and enhance data and privacy protection. The importance of personal data privacy protection does not depend on one's race, nationality, or ethnic origins. People in the East deserve personal data privacy protection as much as people in the West, although, of course, we need to recognize and respect the unique circumstances of every jurisdiction. Nonetheless, we have a lot to learn from each other, and this also explains why this conference is such a valuable opportunity for us to share our experience. Hong Kong is perhaps a classic example of East meets West. As an international and cosmopolitan city, Western and Eastern culture mix well here. One unique feature is the fact that Hong Kong is under the one country, two system policy, the only jurisdictions in China which adopts a common law legal system as guaranteed under our Basic Law, which is our constitutional document. The Basic Law lays the legal foundation and constitutional bedrock for the rule of law, including the continuation of the protection of human rights in Hong Kong, which is a core value of our community. Fundamental human rights are well preserved under the Basic Law. Of particular relevance is Article 30 of the Basic Law, which provides that the freedom and privacy of communication of Hong Kong residents shall be protected by law. No department or individual may, on any grounds, infringe upon the freedom and privacy of communication of residents, except that the relevant authorities may inspect communication in accordance with legal procedures to meet the needs of public security or the investigation into criminal offenses. Further, Article 39 provides that the provisions of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, and international labor conventions as applied to Hong Kong shall remain in force, and the rights and freedoms enjoyed by Hong Kong residents shall not be restricted unless as prescribed by law. Such restrictions shall not contravene the provisions of the said covenants and conventions as applied in Hong Kong. As important as the Basic Law and our human rights legislation, such as the Bill of Rights Ordinance, an independent judiciary is also firmly guaranteed under the Basic Law. Our Court of Final Appeal has been vested with the power of final adjudication by the Basic Law. The final appellate court complies not only the best judicial brains within Hong Kong, but also top and leading jurists from other common law jurisdictions, including the United Kingdom and Australia, sitting as non-permanent judges. The theme of this conference emphasizes connections and collaborations. To a great extent, it coincides with the Belt and Road Initiative, which was first proposed by President Xi in 2013. The Belt and Road refers to the Silk Road economic belt and the 21st century maritime Silk Road. The routes cover more than 60 jurisdictions from Asia to Middle East and to Europe. The Belt and Road Initiative provides a visionary blueprint for global economic development and offers solutions that fosters inclusive growth and development in the 21st century. It will also act as a catalyst for connectivity, convergence, and collaboration. Under the one country, two system policy, and with other unique attributes that have made Hong Kong an international commercial and financial center, Hong Kong is, if I may suggest, best positioned to play the role of a facilitator and also a promoter for trade and investment between the mainland and the rest of the world under the Belt and Road Initiative. Our comprehensive and robust legal system that guarantees individual rights, including, of course, data privacy protection, provides the appropriate infrastructure that facilitates the free flow of information and cross-border transfer of data among different jurisdictions in the midst of data-driven economy boom. Internationally, data privacy protection is a fast-growing area of the law. Any enterprise intending to tap on the opportunities generated by the Belt and Road Initiative must take proactive steps to prepare for the challenges ahead. If I may give two examples. One example is the growing popularity of online dispute resolution. It's a very effective form of dispute resolution, but it also involves very high flow of information, which deserve protection. Another example is the General Data Protection Regulation of the European Union, which will be effective in May 2018, which introduced significant changes to the European Union member states and beyond on strengthening individuals' fundamental rights in the digital age and facilitating business by simplifying rules for companies in the digital single market. I'm sure those who are present today, especially the representatives from the EU data protection authorities and the privacy experts, will provide us with more insights on this aspect. Ladies and gentlemen, Hong Kong has a key role to play in connecting the West with the East. Data privacy protection and free flow of data will continue to be the core values in taking forward such a policy initiative. Hong Kong has been the most popular data center in the region and is ready to serve as a data hub for the Belt and Road Initiative, facilitating transfer and also storage of data, connecting and converging ideas and information between the mainland and the rest of the world. It is now often said data is the key to the future. I would venture to say that as professionals, experts, academics, and other interested parties in this field, all of you here play a pivotal role in shaping the development of the law in this area. Before I conclude, may I express my gratitude to the Privacy Commissioner, Mr. Stephen Wong, and all his colleagues for organizing this event in Hong Kong, which provides an excellent platform for exchanging ideas on how the topical and most sticky issues in this area can be addressed. On this note, it remains for me to wish this conference every success, and for those who have come from the mainland or overseas jurisdictions to attend this event, may I also wish you a very enjoyable stay in Hong Kong. In this regard, I think I can guarantee that there will be absolutely free flow of data regarding good restaurants, good shopping places, and also good sightseeing spots showing how the West mix well with the West here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Yuen. We will now invite Mr. John Edwards, Chair of the International Conference, to deliver the speech. Mr. Edwards, please.
Honourable Secretary, Commissioner Wong, colleagues, delegates, and all participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is a tradition of our conference that at the opening of the opening session, the chair of the closed session of Data Protection and Privacy Commissioners delivers a report on proceedings, and I am here now to deliver that report. We began our session by admitting new members. The National Data Protection Authorities of Belgium, Japan, Montenegro, South Africa, and Turkey have joined our international conference, adding to the richness and cultural and geographic diversity of our organization. We then spent a day in in-depth discussion on government information sharing, with a key focus on how to protect sensitive data, prevent discrimination, and manage risk. Data protection authorities around the world are faced by governments that are increasingly seeking to break down public sector and organizational silos to drive commercial innovation, disseminate knowledge, increase transparency, enhance public services, and seek cost savings and efficiencies. Expert speakers explored with commissioners the issues of information sharing from a range of different angles and highlighted both the challenges and opportunities that information sharing presents. Our expert panel also explained the process of risk management, ethical analysis devoted to avoiding discrimination, and unpacked the complexities of sharing within the government and with other players. Commissioners heard how administrative data sets are used for government research and the development of predictive risk modeling and profiling, which can cause risks to privacy and individual autonomy. Both sides of this story were discussed: the reliability of the data science and modeling to inform public policy, and the risks of using such tools to prompt intervention into the lives of individuals. We had in-depth discussions on the drivers and barriers to information sharing and understanding where governments are heading, how government shared use of information can trigger public concerns about discrimination and the protection of sensitive information, identifying constructive data protection responses to these demands for increased government information sharing. And we talked about the concept of social license and the role that that concept has in innovative use of government data sets. At the conclusion of our first full day of discussions, commissioners held a dinner at which the winners of the inaugural ICDPPC Global Privacy and Data Protection Awards were announced. During that dinner, we were treated to a cultural spectacle. After each course, we saw a different facet of Chinese and Hong Kong cultural life, whether they be young people and their spectacular skipping, traditional musicians, or the amusing and slightly satirical homage paid by a master mask practitioner. During our second day, the meeting heard from the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the right to privacy on progress in his mandate and plans for the coming year. It also received updates from working groups in digital education, data protection metrics, humanitarian action, enforcement cooperation, telecommunications, and conference membership and size. The meeting acknowledged the challenges of the growth of our conference and devoted some time to discussing internal matters relating to the membership size and objectives. We agreed to a rule change to expand the executive committee to meet some of those challenges. And the members, France and Hong Kong, will be joined for the next year by authorities from Burkina Faso, the United Kingdom, Canada returns, and the next hosts, the European Data Protection Supervisor and the Bulgarian DPA, will represent our organization for the 2017-2018 year. The conference passed 3 resolutions. one on data protection in connected and automated vehicles, adopted with the abstention of the Federal Trade Commission. The others, collaboration between data protection authorities and consumer protection authorities for better protection of citizens and consumers in the digital economy. And the third, on exploring further options for international enforcement cooperation, were adopted by consensus and with unanimity. This meeting marked the third and final year under New Zealand's chairmanship, and I have stepped down, and my colleague at the Keneal has offered to resource the Secretariat, and my colleague Isabel Falk-Perotan will step up and serve as President of the conference for the next meeting. The conference looks forward to the 40th conference, to be hosted by EDPS and the Bulgarian DPA in September 2018, and to the 41st conference, which will be hosted by Albania in 2019. It is with some relief that I now set aside my duties as chair and able to join you and experience the richness of the discussion about data protection in the East, which is a topic we don't see very much of at these conferences. And as I said in my opening remarks 2 days ago, the acronym formed by the West meets East, WE, is a lovely symbol of we are all in this together, and please take the time to enjoy and take as much as you can out of these next 2 days. And I once again express my gratitude to Stephen Wong for providing such an excellent host for our closed session and such a rich program for us all to enjoy in our open session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. May I now invite Mr. Stephen Wong, Hong Kong Privacy Commissioner, to deliver the opening remarks. Mr. Wong, please.
Secretary for Justice, Mr. Rimsky-Yuen of Senior Counsel, Permanent Secretary of Constitutional and Mainland Affairs, Mr. Roy Tang, Dr. Zhao Lulu of the Office of the Commissioner of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Hong Kong, Mr. Yu, the Director General Yu of the Liaison Office of the Central People's Government in Hong Kong, of course, our chair, Mr. John Edwards, and our chair-elect, Madame Isabel Falk-Perotan, and Consul Generals, and ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this open session of the International Conference of Data Protection and Data Commissioners, which we in Hong Kong have been waiting for 18 years to rehost. For those who have come from places outside Hong Kong, welcome to this vibrant and dynamic city of Hong Kong in China. I must apologize to those who have to resort to the annex of this hall this morning, as we failed to resist the temptation to accommodate those who registered as participants out of time. Today, we have the largest single mass of global data protection authorities and data-related conglomerates under one roof in Asia, totaling more than 750 delegates, about 65% of whom coming from 67 countries or territories, with about 80 DPAs and related bodies, as well as 165 data-related business enterprises. Special mention must go to the representatives from the 11 countries in Africa, 15 countries and territories in Asia, and 20 delegates from the mainland of China. I fully appreciate the efforts made by our friends coming from Mexico, and we offer our deepest sympathy to those who suffer from the natural disasters lately. You may also be interested in the local representation at this conference, and that a great many officers from the public sector of Hong Kong, such as the Department of Justice, the Immigration Department, the Customs and Excise Department, the Hospital Authority, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, the Consumer Council, and the Monetary Provident Fund Schemes Authority, as well as a large pool of professionals are also joining us. I must be stating the obvious that today we are leading a data-driven life and living in a data-driven or digital economy. Data-related issues are what we are seeking to discuss today and tomorrow. I'm most encouraged to see many of the participants here today come from the emerging economies, which account for half of the global trade flows. Joseph Kanatachi, our UN Special Rapporteur on the right to privacy, once said, "Our mobile phones know more about us than we could imagine." He even went on to say that mobile phone is the informative device that would tell whether one has extramarital affairs. As Brad Smith of Microsoft rightly put it, data is the core and heart of economic development, and we are entering the dawn of a new or the fourth industrial revolution. Indeed, we in Hong Kong and China have had a data evolution, if not a data revolution. Our Secretary for Justice has just told you how our data protection laws evolved over the last 20 years. Let me tell you how our daily lives have changed in the midst of this evolution. For those coming from overseas, you may not have heard of the incredible property prices in Hong Kong. To give you some idea, a parking space in a residential block today may easily cost you more than 400,000 euros. That is a space of a small-sized car. Above the parking space sits an apartment amongst some 300 others in the same block. That would cost you 25,000 euro per square meter, or 2.5 million euro for an apartment similar to a two-bedroom flat in an ordinary residential area of London. About 20 years ago, when I tried to purchase a flat, I had to apply for it. The make submission and lots will be drawn. To inform the lucky ones, the result of the lottery will be announced by publishing the potential buyer's identity card number in full. One of my numbers was mine. These numbers, in those days, were the most important personal data of the people of Hong Kong. Today, only part of the identity card number is shown. Out of our population of 7.4 or 5 million, Hong Kong has 14.5 million mobile SIM cards in active use, of which 7.5 million with 4G services. When you're inside the railway station here in Hong Kong, many thanks to the MTR for sponsoring us with that octopus card with our conference logo on, commemorative card, souvenir for everybody. Many thanks to MTR. And you will always hear that the announcement in the MTR station urging people not to look at their mobile phones when using the escalators. If you think that Hong Kong is smart enough, wait till you go to the mainland of China, which is just 30 km from where you sit now. The penetration of ICT in the mainland of China is even more intense. On the Singles Day, last year, that is the 11th of November, Alibaba's online shopping platform, Taobao, recorded 10 billion yuan or RMB transactions within the first 7 minutes of the day. The total transaction value of that day exceeded renminbi 100 billion. Who will be more analytical and authoritative than Jack Ma of Alibaba when he said, "We are moving from the era of IT to the era of DT." A number of mainland cities plan to turn themselves into cashless, in which many of the brick-and-mortar stores and department stores will only accept electronic payments. You may wonder what people are doing with these QR codes in the mainland of China. Not only can shopping in mainland be cashless, making a donation to the beggars there calls for fintech too. By using these devices, you will inevitably leave your digital footprint. Extensive use of ICT has led to the creation of location data or metadata in a massive scale and at an unprecedented speed. Data breach notifications received by the compliance division of my office has been increasing rapidly lately. According to the research by Gemalto, the number of data records lost or stolen in 2013 was 575 million. In 2016, the number further increased to nearly 1.4 billion. Inadequacy in cybersecurity poses imminent and grave threat to privacy. Extensive collection of personal data in conjunction with sophisticated data mining and profile techniques, the profiling, may expose your innermost secrets or intimate space, and the result of the analytics can often be biased or embarrassing, often without your knowing it. Collection and use of personal data becoming part and parcel of daily lives. From the day we were born, we have had our data collected and used or processed. Some of you may have heard of the story of how voters were nudged in isolated referendum and election activities by way of data mining and profiling. Recently in Hong Kong, we had a case where data was collected and used in activities relating to the election of Hong Kong's chief executive. A month prior to the election in February this year, a pressure group organized what they called a civil referendum activity, in which any Hong Kong citizens aged 18 or above could cast their votes for or against certain candidates through a voting system. This voting system adopted an instant communication application for the voting process, which collected participants' ID card number, mobile phone number, etc. However, there was no explanation on the purpose or the lawful basis for the data collection. The true identity of the data controller was not made known or confusing, and the security of the data collected was dodgy. After the compliance check initiated by me, I urged the pressure group to suspend their activities until remedial actions were taken. And in fact, they were subsequently taken on the basis of unfair collection of personal data and a breach of data security. I will issue revised guidelines in relation to election activities involving personal data and digital identity management. Indeed, the global privacy landscape has changed phenomenally since the implementation of the 1980 OECD guidelines and the EU Data Protection Directive 1995, which shaped many data protecting regimes, including the one in Hong Kong. For example, much of the personal data nowadays, often in an unstructured form, is not collected directly from individuals, but is generated or is derived from their uses of and the interaction with ICT and IoT devices. According to the World Bank, some governments, for example, Korea, China, Singapore, India, and the UK, are supporting the development of the Internet of Things business incubators and innovation centers, which included platforms and testbeds for startups and SMEs. African countries provide the most effective and innovative solution to the Internet of Things. The key challenge is how to apply the core principles in data privacy protection, which value individuals' autonomy and control over his personal data when facing the reality. It is therefore more important for us to keep abreast of the changing privacy landscape worldwide. We all know that the EU is undergoing a major reform of the data privacy law. The GDPR, which will come into effect in May next year, as highlighted by the Secretary of Justice earlier, has introduced enhanced right to protect individuals' data privacy through legal and pragmatic approaches, as Giovanni Buttarelli, the European Data Protection Supervisor, described it, providing a new and unique model for DPAs. And as Madame Isabella Falca-Piatang explained, it is quite clear that the scope of data protection has been broadened by reinforcing current rights and creating new rights. Against this background, my office has carried out a comparative study between the GDPR and our own law. 12 major differences were identified in our study. Some of these key aspects are echoed by the key topics to be discussed in this conference. I would like to issue or publish guidelines in a few weeks' time, or a few months' time, subject to the confirmation of the guidelines by the European Union. And the GDPR is one of the issues that we in Hong Kong perhaps should pay attention to. The reasons have been explained by the Secretary for Justice. What we in our office will do is try to help our businesses, our enterprises understand what the rules are all about and the implications on their businesses, including the transfer of data outside and into Hong Kong. The GDPR has explicitly strengthened its scope to non-EU organizations so long as the processing activities are targeting the EU data subjects. In the midst of this digital age, cross-border data flows are surging and connecting more countries. When personal privacy protection becomes borderless, interoperability of data protection laws and cooperation of data protection authorities are crucial. Given the volume of trade between EU and Hong Kong, we as regulator are duty-bound walk through the business sector in Hong Kong and with all of these relevant provisions. On a separate but related note, which the Secretary for Justice has just explained, the Belton Road Initiative. Given the irreplaceable attribute of Hong Kong in respect of the free flow of information, which finds its enabling environment on the protection of freedoms and human rights as guaranteed under the Basic Law, our constitutional document, including the working implementation of our data protection law and framework. We in Hong Kong are well poised to help make Hong Kong the Belt and Road Data Center within one country, but outside the jurisdiction of the mainland of China, if not merely a global data hub. Tomorrow you will hear how Hong Kong can facilitate cross-border or cross-boundary data flows, and drive data economy to grow in a healthy way. The theme of this conference, ladies and gentlemen, is connecting West with East in protecting and respecting data privacy. You will have views expressed and shared during the course of these 2 days. Many thanks to the most inspirational report on Privacy Bridges program, which aimed to bridge the gaps between the EU and the US data privacy approaches, published by Jacob Konstam, the then chairman of the Dutch Data Protection Authority, at the 37th conference held in Amsterdam. You will surely get to know more about the different legal infrastructures and the ecosystems in the West and the East relating to data protection, from their structure to their culture. The latest white paper released by Google, entitled Smarter Digital City, is most telling. One of the research findings reviews that the consumers expect more than selling brand relationship. They ask for security and trust. Given that data is a sustainable resource, we need to have trust, as succinctly put yesterday by Liz Macpherson. One of our common values is, without a doubt, the interoperability and the interconnectivity to ensure that personal data privacy is not only duly protected, but also duly respected. This requires the engagement of all parties, individuals, the data subjects, organizations, the data users, controllers, and processors, and the regulators. Between individuals and organizations, we must get it right, as Stephen Dedman of Facebook pointed out. Building transparency and control is at the heart of getting it right. If we get it right, organizations will enjoy the fruit of leveraging mutual confidence, trust, and respect, thereby meeting the expectations of the individuals. Furthermore, meeting the legal requirements of compliance and accountability to recognize the intrinsic values of data privacy right would be improved by the ethical approach, including a fair and ethical use or processing of data. Data users need to add value beyond just complying with the legal requirements or obligations. Discussions about new digital ethics, the relevant ethical standard and stewardship have already begun. Surely, deliberation will go on. Personally, I look forward to putting in place what I would call the equitable data privacy right before too long. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a distinct privilege for Hong Kong to be able to provide a meeting place to pick your brains. The conference brings together so many different interests, all stakeholders, and ample opportunities to develop new means of communications and collaborations. Tribute must be paid to the ICDPPC's well-established public-private partnership, joined by the academia and research institutes, as well as our sponsors and supporting organizations, the government of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region in particular. We also aim to assure that, meetings and side events aside, you will thoroughly enjoy your stay in Hong Kong. I did not mention shopping in our bid to host this conference, but I'm sure you won't miss enjoying it. I wish you all a very fruitful conference and memorable stay in Hong Kong. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Could I ask you to remain on the stage, please? We will now invite our guests to come back onto the stage and join Mr. Wong for the opening ceremony. May I please invite back to the stage Mr. Wong, the Honorable Mr. Rimsky-Yuan, Secretary for Justice, and Mr. John Edwards, Chair of the International Conference. May I now invite Mr. Yuan to perform the opening, please. Gentlemen, may I invite you to come to the center of the stage for a group photo, please. Gentlemen, please return to your seats. Our photographer will now take the conference photo. I believe he's going to come onto the stage and take it from the top. May I ask you to look at the camera, please? 1, 2, camera.
Next up, we'll have a Chinese drum performance to be presented by students of Yinghua Primary School. They are aged between 8 and 11 and known as the Thunder Makers. The team was established in 2004 and they have won lots of awards at drum competition. Let's us give a round of applause to welcome the Thunder Makers.
Thanks to the school children for that thunderous performance. And a sincere thanks to Mrs. Maria Lam, principal of Yinghua Primary School, and their teacher, Ms. Leung, for bringing the kids along to perform for us on this special occasion. The 39th International Conference is now officially open. Ladies and gentlemen, the opening ceremony has now concluded.
Each of you should have received a conference bag in which a lot of useful and interesting stuff. It includes a program book. You can find details of all conference and entertainment programs, such as venue, rundown, bios of speakers, moderators, and panelists, and other general information like transportation, attraction in Hong Kong, shopping, and dining guides. More importantly, you can find this beautiful little stuff. Do you know what is it? Yes, it is a backpack. It is a backpack, which is, the visual is designed by Commissioner Wong. You can see the PCPD here, which means, which is the short form of our office. And you can see there is a Chinese word, "Xiyan," means privacy. We hope you like this souvenir. The first part of this morning session focuses on data protection in the East. While the concept of privacy rights originated in the West, it has now gained ground in the East. In this part, prominent speaker and privacy regulator from a number of Asian authorities will highlight the features of privacy culture and the data protection regimes within their own jurisdictions. May I now call upon Professor Wong Man, the Executive Vice President and Vice Chairman of University Council of Renmin, University of China, come up on the stage to deliver his presentation. Let us welcome Professor Wong. Professor Wong, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my great honor to attend such an important conference. Many thanks to the host for inviting me to attend the conference. I'm sorry today I have to speak Chinese because it's safe for me. 那么我今天呢，主要谈一下这个关于中国的隐私权的保障问题。首先呢，我想介绍一下中国这个隐私权的制度的发展。大家知道，在中国这个传统社会、古代社会啊，几千年，我们没有隐私这个概念，因为中国是一个农业社会啊，是一个熟人社会，所以始终欠缺隐私这样一种观念。儒家学说也重视这个，也提出了这个亲亲相隐啊，而且我们的这个古代的法律制度也确立了对这个亲亲相隐的这样的一些这个非常明确的规则，但是这些规则不是保护隐私，而只是呢更多的是维护一种家庭伦理的这种亲情关系。中国这个从新中国建立以来，我们也一直欠缺隐私制度啊。我记得到80年代的时候，我们的这个权威的法学大词典，我们在解释隐私啊，仍然把这个隐私这个概念呢当作一个贬义词啊，认为隐私是一种个人的阴私啊。所谓阴私就是见不得人的那些事情啊。那么这个在中国从改革开放以来，由于这个市场经济的发展，由于中国社会结构的变化，我们从一个传统的农业社会逐渐的向工业社会，向一个陌生人的社会发展。 在这样一个社会转型过程中，隐私的概念越来越重要，隐私制度也逐渐在法律上得到了确立。那么这个过程呢，可以我们把它概括为4个阶段。第一个阶段就是最初在我们的民法总则、民法通则通过之后，我们对于隐私，民法通则里面因为没有对于隐私作出规定，所以这个法院采用类推使用民法通则关于名誉权保护的方法来保护隐私。这个过程我把它称为叫做类推使用名誉权保护隐私的阶段。我记得在80年代曾经有一个非常著名的案例，这个当时最高人民法院曾经邀请我去做过讨论。那么在这个案例里面，这个一个作家他写了一篇文章叫《伟大的母亲》那么这篇文章他介绍了是一个报告文学，他介绍了一个这个母亲呢，她为了教育她的这个聋哑的孩子10多年了，把这个聋哑的孩子最后让他培养上了大学这个故事读起来非常感人，但是他在这篇文章里面，他披露了这个母亲她家庭的不和，还有以及这个夫妻之间的一些纠纷等等。那么这个母亲看到这篇文章之后就在法院提起诉讼，认为这个侵害了她的隐私。但是法院以这个作为侵害名誉权来审理，一审法院作出判决。那么判决之后，虽然就是判决被告败诉，但是被告提出了这个上诉，提出异议。他说我这篇文章丝毫没有侵害原告的隐私，而且不仅没有侵害原告的隐私，丝毫没有侵害原告的名誉，不仅没有损害原告的名誉，而且因为这篇文章使得被告获得了更好的名誉，获得了更好的社会评价。为什么判我败诉？所以从这个案例，当时我们讨论就觉得，我们的这个司法如果用类推使用这个名誉权的方法来保护隐私，这是非常困难的，而且像在类似这样的案件中，它是根本这个没有办法的很好的处理这样类似的案件的，所以最高人民法院就做出了一定的修改，这样进入到隐私保护的第2个阶段。在这个阶段就是通过最高人民法院通过司法解释，明确承认隐私是一种法律保护的利益，但是对隐私仍然没有承认它是一个权利。所以这个阶段我把它称为叫做这个隐私作为人格利益的保护阶段。按照最高人民法院这个关于一个精神损害赔偿的一个司法解释，第1条就明确地确认隐私应当受到法律保护，但是必须是在违反社会公共利益、社会公德这样的一个条件下侵害隐私，才能获得法律的保护。这是因为法院接受了一种观点，就是一种理论，就是认为这个利益的保护和权利的保护是应该区分开的。对于这个利益的保护，应该有更为严格的条件。所以这个最高人民法院用违反社会公共利益和社会公德，也就是用公序良俗这样的概念，来限制对隐私的保护。但是这样一来的话呢，对隐私权人还是它的保护是不利的，因为要求受害人去证明这种侵害行为损害了公共利益和社会公德，常常是举证是非常困难的。所以这在一定程度上就限制了对受害人、对隐私权人的保护。后来我们进入到了第3个阶段，这个第3个阶段就是2009年的侵权责任法第一次确认了隐私权是侵权保护的重要的对象，这就是侵权责任法第2条明确的规定，而且可以说这是在法律上第一次 正式的确认隐私权这3个字。因为当时我也参与了这部法律的制定，我本人也是积极的呼吁，一定要在我们的侵权法这个保护的对象上，把隐私权能够准确的表述出来。正是因为全国人大立法机关在侵权法里面呢确认了隐私权，所以使得实践中隐私保护的案例得到了大幅的增长。我收集了一下中国裁判网，就有2万多份就从2009年以来就有2万多份关于隐私权侵害的这样的案件，在法院得到受理，并且判了被告要承担侵权责任。但是我们只是侵权法确认隐私权，只是以侵权法保护的对象，并没有在法律上正面的去列举规定什么是隐私权，隐私权究竟应该包括哪一些内容。侵权责任法没有做出这种回应，所以到第4个阶段，这就是在法律上正面规定隐私权是一种重要的民事权利。这就是我们今年3月15号立法机关通过的民法总则。民法总则是大家知道，中国现在正在加紧编撰民法典，是我们编撰民法典通过的第一个最重要的一部法律，将于10月1号正式实施。在民法总则里面，第一次可以说从正面明确规定隐私权是一项重要的民事权利，这个可以说是我们民事立法的一个重大的进步。在民法总则通过之后，现在我们也正在加紧编撰民法典的分则，在分则部分将要根据民法总则确认的隐私权，在具体的规定有关隐私权的它的内容、它的各种形态以及侵害隐私权的责任。所以我相信在民法总则通过之后我们的法律对隐私权的保护将进入一个新的阶段。那么在这一个过程中，最高人民法院还有各级人民法院判了大量的隐私权的这些案件，而在这些案件里面也分别确立了很多重要的规则。比如说在上海的一个有关的泄露业主住宅地址的案件中，法院就认为住宅信息这是公民的重要隐私，确定了这样一个规则。比如说在陕西的一个警察进入一个原告家里搜查黄碟这个案例里面，法院判决警察败诉。在这个案例里面确立了私人的住宅是公民的重要隐私空间这样一个规则。再比如在上海2002年的一个中国的足球明星范志毅诉文汇新民晚报的这样一个名誉侵权案里面，上海市法院判决范志毅败诉。在这个判决里面的话呢，第一次提出了就是作为球星的范志毅，他是一个公众人物。那么公众人物对媒体在行使正当舆论监督的过程中可能造成的轻微损害，应当予以容忍。所以这第一次提出了公众人物的隐私应当在舆论监督面前应当受到限制这样一个重要规则。所以类似这些的判决都极大的丰富了中国的隐私权制度，促进了中国的隐私权的发展。那么下面我想谈的第2个问题，就是中国的隐私权制度和西方的有哪一些区别？我们刚才谈到了中国的隐私权，它确实不是传统中国社会的概念和制度，它可以说是一个派来品，是借鉴的西方的制度。那么 我们在借鉴这个制度之后，这个它和中国的这个制度究竟有哪一些区别啊？我想至少表现在这么几个方面。首先，就是我们承认隐私到目前为止是一个民法上的权利，是一个私权，是一个这个民事权利，但是我们并没有承认它是一个宪法上的权利，也没有承认法院，特别是没有承认法院可以直接援引宪法的规定来裁判有关隐私的纠纷。大家知道这个，从两大法系，从美国法到欧洲大陆一些国家法律，承认这个隐私权不仅仅是一个，比如说美国不仅承认它是一个普通法上的权利，而且还是一个宪法权利。欧洲很多法院也承认，法官可以直接援引宪法的有关隐私的保护的规定，有关这个人格尊严的规定来裁判有关侵害隐私权的案件。但是在中国，我们直到目前为止，这个法律实际上是不允许法官可以直接援引宪法裁判民事案件，裁判有关的隐私的这些案件。这里面当然有一个很重要的原因，因为按照中国的宪法，这个只有全国人大常委会才有权解释宪法，法院是没有权利解释宪法的。所以，这个法官如果可以直接援引宪法来裁判民事案件的话，那就意味着这个法官也可以在裁判中可以解释宪法，这和中国现行宪法的规定是不符合的，所以中国曾经这个有过一个案例，就是当时这个法官援引了宪法裁判一个有关冒名顶替上大学这样一个案例，但是后来最高人民法院也针对这个案例做过一个司法解释，但是后来宣布这个解释无效，因为它不符合宪法。所以今天这个最高人民法院在有关的司法解释里面也明确的规定，这个法院裁判民事案件，包括隐私权的案件，只能援引法律解释或者司法解释，不能直接援引宪法。正是因为这个原因，所以这个宪法虽然对有关人格尊严、人身自由等作出了规定，对通讯自由也作出了规定，但是这个法官不能援引这些规定来裁判民事案件。那么宪法这些规定能起什么作用呢？我个人是一直建议，虽然我们的法院不能直接援引宪法来裁判案件，但是可以通过正在制定的民法典，把宪法有关保护公民的通信自由、人格尊严、人身自由等等这些原则，把它具体的在民法典里面规定下来，通过民法把宪法的规则具体化，这样我们说法官裁判民事案件就可以直接通过援引民法关于隐私权的保护的规则，来具体的裁判这些民事案件。这可能是中国目前保护隐私的法律上保护隐私的最可行、最有效的一种方式。从这里也可以看出，我们今天制定民法典，全面规定对隐私权的保护是非常重要的。第二点，我觉得在这个文化传统、理念等方面，还是存在着和西方的差异。我刚才谈到了中国传统社会，我们有这个亲亲相隐，是吧？有比如说像这个家丑不可外扬等等这些说法，也有一些这样的一些规则。但是这不是保护隐私，因为中国传统社会它是一个宗法社会没有这种个人主义的这样一种理念直到今天我们的隐私权的保护不是建立在个人主义的基础上，不是建立在纯粹对个人自由保护的基础上，我们的理念还是要通过保护隐私来建立一个和谐的人际关系保护人格尊严，但是要建立一个和谐的人际关系， 协调个体和群体之间的这种关系，啊，促进这个社会的和谐的发展。所以在这一点上，我们说和这个西方的这个完全建立在个人主义的基础上的隐私权制度，在理念上也是存在一定的差异的。第三点就是这个中国这个隐私权的内涵和西方社会也不完全相同。我仔细比较了一下西方社会，比如说特别像美国这个隐私的概念是非常宽泛的，它的隐私概念甚至包括了个人信息。而欧洲这些国家，比如说法国民法典第9条关于隐私保护的这个概念，它实际上也包括了范围非常宽泛，非常宽泛。但是在我们的法律里面，隐私权是有特定的含义的。大家可以看一下我们的民法总则这个110条，它在列举各项人格权的这个列举中，只是把隐私权作为各项人格权中的一项权利，所以隐私权和名誉、肖像、这个荣誉等等这些权利是区别开的。这样一来，我们可以看出这个隐私权它包含的内涵在中国是比较狭窄的，显然没有西方国家对隐私权，它只不过是人格权里面的一种类型，一种类型。下面我想谈的第3个问题就是关于大数据与个人隐私之间的这个相互关系和平衡的问题。我们知道，今天我们已经进入了一个互联网、高科技、大数据的时代。这个大数据深刻地改变了我们的生活，改变了我们的生活方式。我们也深刻地感受到，现在中国社会确实发生了重大变化，因为大数据、因为互联网发生了重大变化。大家可以看到，现在大数据在中国可以记载一切，这个探头摄像确实是无处不在。这个确实使得这个坏人呢已经无路可逃了，是吧？这个可以这个很容易的发现坏人，但是也使我们普通人我们的行踪实际上也暴露无遗，我们在什么地方，我们做什么，将要做什么，准备做什么等等，都可能被记录下来，所以有人说今天中国社会大家感觉有点像像集体裸奔这样一种感觉这种说法也不是没有道理。网购迅速发展，大家知道中国的大陆现在网购的无论是数量还是规模都是全球第一，在这个总量上都远远超过了美国。但是这个网购这里面大家看到有一个非常值得我们重视的现象，就是许多的商家，当你在网上你要进行网购的时候，他都要求你填写不少数据，他都在时刻的收集我们的信息，我们的数据。那么他收集了之后，究竟做什么用？会不会被泄露？会不会被非法利用？这些问题都没有很好的得到解决。我在网上看过这个阿里巴巴的这个总裁这个马云曾经他有一句名言，马云说：“我们是通过卖东西收集数据，数据才是阿里最值钱的财富。”他说这个数据是他们阿里巴巴的最重要的财富。这就是说，阿里巴巴在从事这个网购这个过程中，他们一个很重要的一个功能是要收集数据。今天大家知道，中国很多的现在的这个电商这个越来越强大，是吧？比如说腾讯、百度、阿里巴巴这些巨型的公司，还有许许多多正在兴起的这些公司，他们确实掌握了我们太多的个人数据、个人信息。一旦被滥用，我觉得这是非常令人担忧的。 所以，这个我们已经通过了民法总则，专门对数据隐私权作出规定。我们正要制定的民法典也要全面的对数据隐私的保护作出规定。我个人理解，在这里，这个我想对我们的民法总则关于数据隐私的保护，这个做相关规定，我谈一点个人的理解。首先，在我们的民法总则里面，它是区分了数据和隐私权这两个概念。那么，数据它是放在财产权里，作为一种无形财产权，放在财产权里规定的；而隐私权、个人信息权、个人信息是放在人格权里规定的。那么在这里，我想这个放在财产权里规定的数据，我个人的理解，它实际上是一个不涉及到个人隐私的这些数据。对于这些数据，纯粹可以作为一项财产来保护，作为如果有独创性的话，是可以作为知识产权来保护的。那么对于这一类的财产，法律上它的立法的目的就是要充分的鼓励对于这一类财产的利用，也允许它可以转让。通过这种有效率的利用，有利于来满足人们的知情权，来促进社会经济的发展。所以，对于这个个人的，对于这个数据财产，这个是充分鼓励利用的。但是另一方面，对于隐私、个人信息，虽然也允许利用，但是民法总则特别强调，要合法的收集、合法的利用。这就是第二点，我想强调的，就是按照民法总则，对于涉及到个人信息和隐私的，首先不得非法收集个人的信息和隐私。这就是说，法律并不禁止收集个人信息，但收集的目的、范围、方式必须合法。我个人理解，在这里确实要区分一般的信息和敏感的信息，区分一般的隐私和核心隐私。对于一般的隐私的对一般的个人信息收集，法律上并没有说强制必须要求，必须要取得同意。但是对于重要的涉及到敏感的个人的隐私，这个在进行收集的时候，我个人呢一直建议我们应当要求取得权利人的同意。其次就是不得非法利用个人的信息和隐私。信息确实具有重大的利用价值，而且确实是一个巨大的金矿，需要我们去开发。但是，对这个已经这个收集到的包含了个人的信息和隐私的这些数据，不能做非法的目的、非法的利用。这个最近的网上一直在出现这个披露这样的一种行为，就是有的这个现在中国这个网上借贷很发达，这个根本不需要有什么这个担保品，就可以在网上你就可以从事借贷。那么有的借贷个别的吧，有的借贷公司据网上披露，他不要求这个贷款人去提供任何的担保品，但是他要求你，比如说提供你的个人的一些隐私，甚至要求这个女孩子把你的这个裸照都提供给他。一旦你还不起贷款，他要在网上披露你的隐私，披露你的这样的，甚至已经发生了披露这个贷款人的裸照的这种行为。我认为这就是完全把隐私已经收集到的隐私、个人信息做非法利用了，这不是一种正当的使用，第三点就是这个对于已经这个收集到了涉及到个人的隐私的这些数据信息，必须要注重这些隐私的信息的安全，必须要注重对这些隐私和信息的保护。我们刚才说到了，这个确实现在我们在中国许多大公司的确掌握了太多的个人信息，但是我们按照民法总则要求他必须负有对这些信息 和隐私的安全保护义务。因为这些信息一旦被泄露，后果是非常严重的。中国大陆已经出现了这个网上披露了这个我们有关的机关掌握了艾滋病的信息，艾滋病人的信息被非法泄露，被黑客攻击，结果有的这个违法犯罪行为人，一些诈骗分子，就利用这个被泄露的信息去敲诈艾滋病人，后果非常严重，所以这个我经常遇到一些搞数据开发的人，我说你这个开发的这些数据、这些权利是谁的？他说，所有这些权利都是我的，都是我开发者的。我说不能这么说。如果这些数据不涉及到个人的信息隐私，也许这些数据的开发，比如说你具有独创性，你可能对它享有知识产权，可能这个权利是你的。但是，一旦这些数据里面涉及到了个人的信息、个人的隐私，那么这些权利，我个人认为还应当仍然属于个人的隐私权人和个人信息权利人。所以这就非常希望我们在这个民法典的分则里面特别强调，大数据中凡是涉及到了个人信息和隐私的，仍然必须要这个加强对这些个人信息和隐私的保护。这个一定要这个允许个人通过，如果一旦发现你的数据的保管存在着巨大的安全隐患，个人应当有权利对这些隐私和信息的控制者要求他们采取必要的合理的措施，消除这些安全隐患，保障这些信息的隐私的安全。总之，在今天的中国，互联网高科技以及大数据的发展，我们的信息隐私的收集、开发、利用，确实蓬勃兴起，给今天中国的经济发展注入了极大的活力，但是也不可避免地带来了个人信息和隐私的侵害，对于个人尊严的侵害。所以我个人一直认为，今天我们对于在中国今天对于个人信息隐私的利用，应该说做的还是很好的，但是有些利用可能有点过头了，但保护明显还不足。这正是我们今天中国社会发展对法律提出的新的挑战。中国经过30多年改革开放的发展，我们现在已经成为全球第2大经济体。按照许多经济学家的看法，也许要不了多久，可能会成为第1大经济体。在我们的人民群众的物质文化生活得到极大的提高的情况下，我认为我们现在更应当注重的是，不仅仅是使人们吃得饱、穿得暖、物质生活过得好，还需要使每一个人活得有尊严，还需要充分的保护每一个人的他的尊严。所以这就需要我们进一步的强化对个人隐私、对个人信息的保护。这正是我们现在正在加紧制定的民法典所应当解决的重要的课题。因为时间关系，我就谈到这里。谢谢大家。Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Wong, for the inspiring speech. Our second speaker is Ken Yang, the coordinator of the Office for Personal Data Protection Macau. May I now invite Mr. Yang to proceed to the stage to deliver his presentation. Mr. Yang, please.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor to be here and introduce the data protection regime to all of you. I think in the interest of time, I will try to rush a little bit because I have prepared a lot of slides in my presentation. I think you can later download it from the conference website for your reference. So I will try to rush a little bit. And before introducing the Data Protection Act of Macau, I will introduce you, give you a basic understanding on Macau. So Macau is very small. It's also a special administrative region of mainland of China, and then it's quite similar to Hong Kong. Its location is at the western end of the Pearl River Delta, so it's quite close to Hong Kong. It's very small, and the population size is less than 1 million. And then Macau was under Portuguese administration before 1999, and then the Macau SAR was also established in 1999. So actually, Macau is quite similar to Hong Kong in many aspects. Politically, we are both the product of the one country, two system principle. And then economically, we are both under the capitalism economy. But also, there were quite a lot of significant differences between Hong Kong and Macau. For example, Hong Kong is big and Macau is small. And then politically and legally, Hong Kong is influenced by the British system, and Macau is influenced by the Portuguese system. And then culturally, both Hong Kong and Macau are under the integration of the culture of West and East. But in Hong Kong, the official languages are Chinese and English, and in Macau, the official languages are Chinese and Portuguese. And regarding the economy, Macau's economy is not so diverse. We focus mainly on gambling and tourism. So there's a significant change in the beginning of this century. You can see that our gambling industry ended the monopoly gambling system in 2002. And then after that, 2 years later in 2004, there was a very significant or substantive economic development in Macau, and it has lasted for more than 1 decade. And you can see that in last year, we have tourists or visitors from outside, and the number reached 31 million. Just pay attention that the local population is less than 1 million. So we have a lot of visitors from all over the world to enjoy Macau's gambling and something else. Of course, shopping too. So regarding the Personal Data Protection Act, I think many of you may know that there is a Personal Data Protection Act in Macau. And then, I rush a little bit. Okay, although there were different levels of data protection or privacy protection in Macau, I think the keystone is the Personal Data Protection Act, which is passed in 2005 and added in 2006. And our office was set up in 2007, and then the main duties or main functions of our office is quite similar to most of the DPAs all over the world. And our office is also a member of APA and GPAN and an observer of the ICDPPC. And from this slide, you can see that Macau's Data Protection Act roots deeply from the Portuguese Data Protection Act and then from the EU directive. So it's quite similar to the Portuguese DPA. And then some features of our DPA are our regulations on notification, authorization, combination of data, and the transfer of cross-border data transfer, which is almost identical to those in the Portuguese Data Protection Act. I will skip all of this because you can easily download the PPT and read the articles. Regarding the notification scheme, it's quite controversial even in the EU. So we have tried a lot to make it less bureaucratic. So we have issued some exemptions on notification and some simplification of notification just to make the process less bureaucratic. But we know that it's quite controversial. Even in Hong Kong, Hong Kong is not implementing any notification scheme, so we will reconsider it later. regarding the combination of data or data matching, there was also some kind of very strict regulation on that. Because in this conference, we also talk about the data sharing between government agencies. In Macau, we have a very strict regulation on that. The government agencies, they can share the data either by permission of the law or by authorization of our office. So you can see some statistics there, and also you can read those authorizations from our website. So I skip all this. So regarding the evolution of Macau's Data Protection Act or Data Protection Regime, I would like to say that when the legislators proposed the law proposal in 2005, we can think that maybe they anticipated that there should be a very rapid development economically, and then there should be an increase or in the volume of data processing. Then in that case, both in the private sector and the public sector, we need a very comprehensive data protection regime. And we also need a data protection authority to supervise the data processing. That's my understanding on the background of our legislation. In that case, I personally think that regardless of the local culture, the driving force behind the development of the data protection regime should be some kind of market force. It means that if there is some needs from the economic development, the government or the legislators will more or less trying to learn from the West and build up the data protection regime. Because of the effect of globalization and past dependency, personally, I believe that the main reference model should be the EU model or the US model, which is the West. But however, we will still consider our local context, and I will talk about that later. So from the statistics, which is the request for our legal opinions and our investigations, you can see that there was a continuously increase of our workload. And one of our office's policy to implement the law is that we believe prevention is better than cure. So we emphasize on the public education to prevent any data breaches and just to educate the data controllers and the data subjects in Macau to protect the personal data better than before. In my slides, there were some cases highlights. I won't go into detail, and you can visit our website to know more about it. So on the right bottom, you can see there is a number of the case number. And you can search it by Google. Transparency is always one of our core values. So we have tried to upload many documents and case summaries onto our website. Most of them are in Chinese and Portuguese, and many of them are also in English, so you can download it for reference. So regarding the challenges, as many of you may know already, that even though our office is formally set up, it's still in a temporary base. So we still need the legislature to pass another law to define our permanent status and define our function clearly. And then also the Macau government has a very ambitious project to build Macau as a smart city. And then our office needs to cooperate with other stakeholders and try to ensure that personal data protection, personal data is well protected in Macau. And another thing I would like to highlight is that when implementing the EU model of our Personal Data Protection Act, we still need to consider a lot of local context. As some of you may know that last month, Typhoon Hato attacked Macau heavily, and it brought a very serious disaster to Macau. After that, we think that we have to adjust the policy a little bit. and we have to have more local considerations. I recall a conversation between me and Mr. Yang from Singapore, who will be the speaker later, in last April forum, that we have to consider things, or we have to assess, when there is any risk assessment or other law enforcement, we have to consider our local context. For example, a very minor risk may be of the nature of total loss to small jurisdictions like Hong Kong and Macau and Singapore. So we have to think and act both globally and locally. So that's all for my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Yang. Here comes to a tea break. Refreshments are served at the foyer area of this room, as well as one level lower. The conference will resume at 11:10. Please come back on time. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is Dr. Masa Horibi, the chairman of Personal Information Protection Commission in Japan, who is sometimes referred to as Dr. Privacy. Sharon now invites Dr. Privacy to deliver his presentation. Dr. Horibi, please.
Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Commissioner Stephen Wong of Hong Kong as the host for giving me this excellent opportunity. My commission, the Personal Information Protection Commission, was accredited as an official member of the ICDPPC the day after, the day before yesterday in the closed session. And this brown part is the plate of my commission. And first two words, individual, second two words, information, and third two words, protection, and fourth, three words, commission. So when you come to my office in Tokyo, please recognize this plate. Needless to say, this is the 39th ICDPPC. And I am one of the most frequent participants in the ICDPPC, about 25 times out of 39. I have been learning very much from the activities of the ICDPPC, and it may be said that ICDPPC made me the first chairman of the Japan's Personal Information Protection Commission. Thank you very much. I appreciate the ICDPPC very much. Well, I have been studying privacy and personal data protection for more than half a century. In 1961, famous novelist Yukio Mishima published an authorized roman a cliff entitled after the banquet concerning the former Minister for Foreign Affairs, Achiro Arita marital affairs. My teacher, Professor Masami Ito at the University of Tokyo, was asked to ask how to deal with this case, and I engaged in studying civil law approach and the common law approach to solve this case. So this is the beginning of connecting West and East in protecting privacy in Japan. Mr. Arita, plaintiff, brought an action against Mishima Yukio and publisher for the invasion of privacy. So this year, the word privacy became very famous in Japan. We translated it into English, but it is impossible to translate into Japanese. So we usually use privacy as it is. In Japan, loan word or word of foreign origin have been easily acceptable, and privacy is one of them. And privacy, the benefits of such notion as private lives, personal affairs, and personal secrets were criticized into a new household word privacy through this lawsuit. And in 1964, the Tokyo District Court recognized privacy as a right protected by Japanese law, and based upon its decision on sections 709 and 710 of the Civil Code. Then this case has been playing very important role in the discussion of the privacy in tort case or others. There have been lots of lawsuits after this, and today there are over 3,000 court cases which refer to a term of privacy. But this more than 3,000 court cases include the Freedom of Information Ordinances and Protection of Personal Information Ordinances strongly advocated by myself in the 1970s and enacted by local governments since the 1980s have led to an increasing number of the court. So wide acceptance of the concept of privacy is shown in court cases. Generally speaking, Japanese people and business are law-abiding nature, or law-abiding. And law-abiding spirit and strong the concept of privacy were combined into a strong privacy-based corporate culture. Businesses and companies should respect privacy, and they began voluntary activities in the private sector in relation to the protection of personal information. It's one of the unique privacy culture in Japan. Business industry organizations have stipulated guidelines for their respective business areas. I helped making these guidelines very much. Companies have developed and implemented self-regulatory privacy and self-regulatory privacy protection and policies. So, and also initiative for prefectural wide voluntary activities in relation to the personal information was like this. I was involved in drafting the Personal Information Protection Ordinance 1990 of Kanagawa Prefecture, which is next to Tokyo, and with about 9 million population, and launching the personal data mark system, voluntary system. It's something like a mark. After that, I proposed a similar nationwide voluntary system. So this is called privacy mark or privacy seal system, which was implemented by JIPDEC, then Japan Information Processing Development Center in 1991. I was involved in launching this privacy mark system, and it is one of the certification system in the area of protecting privacy and personal data. On the other hand, the OECD guidelines 1980 and COE Convention 108 in 1981 have been very influential in Japan. Research committee set up in Japan in response to such initiative. In response to the OECD privacy guidelines adopted on September 23rd, 1980, the research committee on the protection of privacy was set up in the Administrative Management Agency. It's one of the administrative agency in Japan. It's Prime Minister's office. I was the youngest member of that committee, and I went abroad to exchange views with persons concerned. But I have recently become the most senior member of such committees. Upon this report proposed a comprehensive legislation of personal data protection, but it was very difficult to introduce legislation in a short time. And in 1988, the Act for the Protection of Computer Processed Personal Data held by the administrative organs was enacted. I was involved in this discussion, and I was asked to translate this act into English, and I distributed the English translation widely. And also, 1999, Working Party, yes, I was chairman, set up under the Advanced Information and Telecommunication Society Promotion Headquarters, headed by Prime Minister. I published my own plan how to deal with data protection in Japan. Based upon these discussions, sets of bills on personal data protection were passed through the Diet. It was on May the 23rd. It's my birthday. And this act promulgated on May 30, 2003, and came fully into force on April the 1st, 2005. Then, with the globalization and the advent of, or the progress of the development of information and communication technologies, we began to discuss how to amend this act. And the new act or amended act promulgated on September the 9th, 2015, and came into force on May 30th, 2017, this year. This act introduced establishment of an independent protection authority called the Personal Information Protection Commission, which is abbreviated PPC. This is the new commission. Specific regulations on cross-border transfer of personal data, enforcement cooperation with the foreign enforcement authorities, penalties against unlawful provision of personal information database, applying to all business operators, including small and medium enterprises. The PPC consists of one chairman and 8 commissioners and 3 special commissioners. One of the special commissioners for international affairs visited European countries recently, and he exchanged with the person concerned. And when the former commission called Specific Personal Information Protection Commission started in January 2014, the staff is about 25. But this year, the PPC Secretariat consists of about 130 officials. We have been issuing rules and guidelines, holding 27 public consultations and receiving over 2,060 comments, promoting campaigns on the rules, 320 seminars, more than 40,000 people have been attending, providing from 100 to 200 consultation services per day, giving guidance and advice to companies. Cross-border transfer of personal data and enforcement cooperation. We have been holding successive consultations with the EU and also promoting the APEC cross-border privacy rules. I'd like to talk much more, but the time is limited. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Horobi. Our next speaker is Mr. Choi Ho-win, the Standing Commissioner of Personal Information Protection Commission, Korea. I will now pass the stage to Mr. Rim. Mr. Rim, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Choi Ho-im, Standing Commissioner of Korean DPA, the PIPC. It must be the best moment of my life because I stand at this big stage in front of numerous global leaders in data protection area. Thanks to Mr. Steve Wong and all the members of ICDPPC for providing me with this opportunity. It's still confusing to me whether it's real or kind of dream. Anyway, let me start back to the reality. The contents are composed of two parts. One, the privacy culture, and the other, the legal system of personal data protection in Korea. The first part, privacy culture. This slide shows how the privacy culture in Korea has evolved throughout 4 phases. Let me discuss each further. The first phase, Agrarian Society. This phase is represented by agriculture-based community affected by Confucianism. The concept of personal data was not established yet. So there's very little sense of personal data perception, sharing detailed information about individuals, like knowing how many sets of cutlery. In Korean terms, spoons and chopsticks my neighbor has was a way of showing friendliness, deemed to be a virtue. The second phase, industrialization period. This period is represented by efficiency in public administration, which was valued most. Keeping national security and public order was one of the top priorities due to the division of Korea. Under these circumstances, identifying and managing human and material resources was very important for the government. So the RRN, Resident Registration Number system, was introduced in 1968. You are looking at what RRN comprises. The first part of 6 digits refer to the date of birth, and the last part of 7 digits comprise gender, birthplace, etc. You may be able to learn about someone from the numbers by themselves. The third phase, the Era of Democratization. This period is represented by the recovery of democracy. Military regime ended, replaced by civilian governments. During this period, an emphasis on efficiency shifted to fundamental human rights and privacy. Meanwhile, with the e-government fully in place, data protection became more important. This led to the enactment of the Act on the Protection of Personal Information of Public Institutions. So the PIPA was enacted and the PIPC was established in the same year, 2011. Next is information society. With a high-speed broadband and IT devices widely used, Korean society entered hyper-connected society. At that period, despite all the conveniences by the information society, there's lots of leaks and misuse cases. So emphasis on informational autonomy was set. The PIPA enacted and the PIPC established in 2011. Next is the legal system of personal data protection. In 1994, the Act on the Protection of Personal Information of Public Institutions was enacted to regulate the public sector. And in 1999, the ICNA, Information and Communications Network Act, was amended. Since then, it regulates data processing in the communication sector. In 2011, the PIPA was enacted as a general law, repealing and incorporating the Act of 1994. The PIPA went through 2 amendments in 2013 and 2016, including clauses to restrict processing RRNs. Now, RRNs are able to be processed only under the specific endowment clauses in laws. Even data subjects' consent is not an effective condition anymore. The data protection is regulated by different authorities. First, the PIPC, our commission. We establish a master plan for personal data protection. One of the most important functions of the PIPC is to assess privacy risks in every statute, including bylaw, to be enacted or amended, and provide recommendations if necessary. It also mediates disputes between data subjects and controllers and provides remedies. On the other hand, the MOIS, Ministry of the Interior and Safety, and KCC, Korea Communications Commission, conduct investigation and impose sanctions related to data protection. The MOIS in overall areas and the KCC, communications area specifically. Now it's about the PIPA, Korean Data Protection Act. The PIPA is very strict, maybe strictest in the world. For example, assessment of compatibility for data processing is not allowed. This means repurposing is not permitted. And legitimate interests and the implementation of a contract are not recognized as the lawful conditions for data disclosure. It also strictly prohibits secondary disclosure of personal data. It is allowed only by data subject's consent or specific legal provisions. The PIPA is also very strict in terms of penalties. Those who have violated the PIPA may be sentenced to imprisonment of up to 10 years or a fine of up to 100 million Korean won. Recently, by revising the PIPA, we have adopted the punitive and statutory damages systems. Moreover, we additionally collect criminal proceeds. This is the last slide. It shows the issues under discussion in Korea. Strengthening the PIPC's powers as the control tower for data protection has been adopted as a guiding agenda for the newly inaugurated Korean government. It aims to ensure the data subject's right in a more practical manner. Currently, consultation is in progress among the relevant government bodies, including the presidential office, to accomplish this agenda. Granting to the PIPC enforcement powers, not least for ex officio investigation and imposing sanctions, is the major issue. Allowing the PIPC complete independence in terms of personnel matters and budget is being discussed too. I recently met Secretary of MOIS and people in President's office to discuss these matters. And it is very encouraging to me that relevant bills already have been proposed by the National Assembly legislators. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rin. Upcoming next is a speech by Mr. Si Kin Yeung, the Deputy Commissioner of Personal Data Protection Commissioner, Singapore. May I now invite Mr. Yeung to deliver his presentation. Mr. Yeung, please.
Mr. Stephen Wong, Privacy Commissioner for Hong Kong, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. The ICDPPC is the premier forum to discuss data protection and privacy issues, bringing together regulators, policymakers, and industry. It is a privilege for me to address you today on the topic of data protection in Asia. There is no better place than Hong Kong for us to juxtapose the data protection philosophies of the Eastern and the Western hemispheres. I am delighted to be able to share Singapore's perspectives with this august audience. Briefly, there is a bundle of common law rights and statutory torts that collectively form an incipient area of law on privacy in Singapore. For example, the right to seclusion is probably covered by the statutory tort in our Prevention of Harassment Act, and the right to prevent publication of private communication is likely to be a common law tort. A key feature of privacy law in Singapore is that it is enforceable by private civil action in the courts. The Commission administers and enforces our data protection law, and it is to this topic that I devote the bulk of my speech. Economies in Asia have diverse cultural, political, and legal traditions. But even in the midst of diversity, there is a significant degree of similarities. One that comes immediately to mind is our drive for advancement in the economic sphere. Another is that our students always seem to do well in mathematics and science. It is important to integrate our pursuit of personal data protection into our national economic agenda. This provides the impetus for consumers and businesses to start and maintain a dialogue about the expected standards for personal data protection. This dialogue should be constructive. Data protection authorities have a role to play in facilitating the conversation and contributing to building a positive reinforcement loop. The ultimate goal is often the same with other economies that have different privacy traditions. We all strive to permit the innovative use of data that leads to better services and products for our customers, while concomitantly providing assurance to consumers that their personal data are handled with utmost care and respect. Singapore recognizes that a robust data protection regime is an important foundation for the digital economy. In the digital economy, data is a strategic asset for companies. It can help companies optimize the way they operate, improve existing products and services, or to innovate new ones. We believe that amplifying the level of trust between consumers and businesses is crucial for promoting innovation. In order to build an ecosystem of trust, we must reach beyond pro forma compliance with data protection laws, which is a necessary condition but no longer a sufficient condition in today's competitive and data-driven landscape. We have started our pivot from compliance to accountability in Singapore. In our view, accountability is an organization's promise to customers that their personal data will be handled respectfully and carefully. It is about being able to demonstrate to customers that measures which preemptively identify and address risks to personal data have been put in place. We see our pivot from compliance to accountability to encompass the following. We have to move towards a regime that places paramount emphasis on the integration and observance of data protection standards as part of its business-as-usual processes and practices. This requires a fundamental shift in corporate culture. To provide practical assistance to businesses and non-profit organizations, we will promote the adoption of accountability tools like risk assessments, data protection management programs, and consent registers. These tools will assist in the translation of concept to practice. We see the corporate and consumer dialogue to be an important component of accountability. Businesses can communicate with their customers through multiple channels. We believe that a data protection trust mark is both a statement and a promise to customers. When data breaches happen, we view consumer breach notifications as a way that businesses can speak directly to their customers. In addition to email, online forums, and chatbots, we believe that online dispute resolution can also be an effective way of a neutral assisted dialogue to resolve customer dissatisfaction. Prevention is better than cure, as the saying goes. Thus, we will be promoting and encouraging the adoption of data protection by design practices and privacy-enhancing technologies in system and process design. In Singapore, ours is a system that relies on consent as the basis for processing. This has resulted in some less than ideal practices. In cases we have investigated, we have come across broad consent clauses. In one published decision, we did not allow a company to hide behind a broadly drafted consent clause. We need to de-emphasize and discourage reliance on broad ex-ante consent and provide parallel basis for the collection, use, and disclosure of personal data. In July, 2 months ago, our Minister for Communications and Information, Dr. Yaqub Ibrahim, announced a 3-stage process to help companies along this journey from compliance to accountability. In the first stage of the pivot towards accountability, the Commission will be producing guides and an online assessment tool to assist companies. We are finalizing our guides to assist companies to put in place data protection management programs and to help businesses conduct data protection impact assessments. These are accountability and data protection by design tools, but it is equally important for organizations to discover where the gaps are before they start using such tools. To assist with the gap analysis, we are making available a PDPA assessment tool for organizations. This is a free online resource that organizations may use to identify gaps in their data protection management. The assessment tool will provide suggestions, recommend resources such as our advisory guidelines and guides that data protection officers may refer to. When used in conjunction with the DPMP guide, a data protection officer will be able to make strategic decisions about what interventions are necessary to bridge the gaps that have been identified. In the second stage, we will launch a data protection trust mark or certification scheme by the end of 2018. In a survey conducted last year, we found that 4 out of 5 consumers would be more confident transacting with an organization that holds an accreditation mark for meeting personal data protection standards. The trust mark can be seen as a recognition that an organization has put in place accountability practices that go beyond a checklist approach to compliance. We will also recognize adoption of data protection by design practices. We have plans to integrate the APEC, CBPR, and PRP registrations into a single trust mark application. We hope that this will encourage and assure the flow of data between trusted companies, both domestically and globally, thereby creating a network of trust. In the third and final stage of our journey to accountability, the Commission plans to allow for a more progressive approach in collecting, use, and disclosing personal data, while also providing greater transparency when data breaches occur. We have recently initiated the first phase of the review of our Act to ensure that the regulatory environment remains relevant as technological developments have significantly changed how personal data is generated and collected today. When we first started to put our Personal Data Protection Act together, user-provided personal data formed the majority. Today, user-provided data forms a diminishing set that sits alongside data generated by user activity and observable data, both of which are growing at an increasing pace. Our ongoing public consultation solicits feedback on proposed enhancements to our framework for the collection, use, and disclosure of personal data, and a mandatory data breach notification framework. There will be other consultations as we work towards the amendment. I have shared that our view of accountability encourages dialogue between businesses and consumers. It will be hypocritical if we do not also engage in conversation. Therefore, the Commission is prepared to work with companies who have adopted accountability practices to create regulatory sandboxes so that they are not held back from deploying technological and business innovations. Working with consumers, stakeholders, and businesses to construct sandboxes will also allow us to understand how our proposed changes to the Act might work in practice. This, in turn, informs us as we fine-tune the details before the Act is amended. This should help us craft a set of amendments to our Act that will be relevant in the digital economy. The details of the regulatory sandbox may be found in the recently released Guide on Data Sharing. This guide sought to debunk the myth that the Act prohibits data sharing and also provided a framework for the applications to PDPC to exempt data sharing arrangements from specific obligations under the PDPA. The ultimate goal of our shift from compliance to accountability is to establish a high level of consumer trust as the bedrock of our data protection regime, thereby enabling data innovation in Singapore's digital economy. We look forward to working with businesses to build a trusted ecosystem to optimize the opportunities and the rewards of data innovation. On this note, I would like to thank the ICDPPC and the government of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region for the opportunity to speak and for the successful organization of the 39th conference. I wish you all a most thought-provoking conference ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yang. The last speaker of this session is Mr. Raymond Liboro, the Privacy Commissioner and Chairman of National Privacy Commission in the Philippines. Let's welcome Mr. Liboro to give his presentation.
Thank you, Carol. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to thank the ICDPPC for inviting the Philippines National Privacy Commission to this annual gathering of data protection authorities from all over the world. Some of you probably know that ours is probably the youngest data privacy authority and being established only in March of last year. But despite this, I am proud that our commission was considered and eventually accepted as a full member of the ICDPPC on the same year of its establishment. Let me take this opportunity to thank our host and a good friend, Commissioner Stephen Wong. If you're familiar with the show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, there's a portion there where the beleaguered contestant has an option to call a friend whenever he doesn't know the answer. And I always press that button calling Stephen Wong, and I would disturb his golf games, and he would always call me back. Let's give a big hand for Stephen Wong. But all right. And it's also a happy coincidence that this year's conference is happening in Hong Kong, an old friend of my country. This is where many of our revolutionaries were exiled, including our first president during the War for Independence from Spanish rule. That was in 1898. Hong Kong was even where the first Philippine flag was made by some of the same exiled revolutionaries. That was in May 28 of 1898, and 3 weeks after that, they shipped the flag to the Philippines and declared independence on June 12 that same year. But nowadays, if you will look at the map, it only takes 2 hours to get to Hong Kong. And a little more information about my country. Yes, we are archipelagic. We have the capital city, Manila. If you're going to ask me, we have 7,100 islands. That's during high tide and low tide, we have 107. And well, just now, I just got a very recent information that it's actually now 7,641 islands. And owing to the, again, the technology that is now available, and we are now discovering all these smaller islands. But, you know, before I continue, I'd like to convey our thoughts to our friends from Macau and also from Hong Kong. And already Mr. Stephen Wong mentioned this earlier about the natural disasters, and especially to Macau, Typhoon Hato, which struck Macau barely 2 weeks ago, and also Hong Kong. And I've decided to make this spec for you and for everyone to understand where the East is coming from whenever we talk about risks. And when I was still with the Ministry of Science 3 years ago, we decided to map the storms and typhoons that had actually crossed the country from 1951. And if you can see, well, it almost covered the entire Philippines, but you will notice that most of our storms and typhoons that pass over the landmass in the Philippines, we process it a bit in my country, then export it to Hong Kong. And, well, what happened to us? Of course, we're still here. We're still here. I mean, that's the resilience in the Philippines. But some of these typhoons, we have 20 storms a year. 5 of them develop into typhoons and deadly typhoons. Some of them ended like this one, like this scene. It turns out to be a disaster. But at some point, we decided that we all, well, much as we cannot change where our geographical location is, but we can prevent disasters from happening. That is why we have started organizing village groups to start building and preventing and mitigating typhoons or its effects on our country. And having said that, we have, you know, after all those typhoons, we still end up with very pristine beaches and nice beaches. And I hope the ICDPPC can be held in the Philippines someday, Ms. Isabel, so you can enjoy all this. So we were not erased from the map after suffering from all those typhoons, and resilience and the Filipino spirit was actually shown to be in the forefront. So resilience, it's actually the title of my talk. Privacy, resilience, and data protection in the Philippines. Resilience, that's the definition. We do not, like Japan, we do not have an exact term in Tagalog for privacy. But we do have a lot of terms for resilience in Tagalog. Malakas, matibay, di natitinag, nababanat. But ask me if there is an exact word for privacy in Filipino, no. Does that mean that we do not value privacy in the Philippines? Not at all. So, but those are natural disasters. Right now, I think the landscape is that we are faced, more than natural disasters, we are faced with man-made risks. And these are, well, the present risks that we are experiencing every day. I just grabbed this from a website yesterday to show how every day attacks are being made on the country from others. And also, this also from within. And this has really been a very extremely busy 18 months from the Commission. Within a week from our founding, the world's largest personal data breach on the government database happened in the Philippines. Personal data from the voters registration database of our Commission on Election, sounds familiar here in Hong Kong, Steve, was suddenly available in the dark web. Over 55 million of our citizens were affected. I guess you could consider this a baptism of fire for a newly created or newly formed Data Protection Authority. The event was known in media and social media circles as Comelec. Eventually, the National Privacy Commission resolved that there was a violation of the Data Privacy Act and recommended prosecution of a senior government official to the higher courts in this landmark case. This was the flashpoint that started the ball rolling for compliance and accountability. And for the very first time, boardrooms all over the country were talking about data privacy and protection. Between hearings and investigations, we had to fast-track the development and issuance of Data Privacy Acts implementing rules and regulations, and circulate a series of memoranda aimed at specifically the largest collector and processor of personal data outside Facebook and Google, and that is the government. But suddenly, everyone is talking about DPO, or Data Protection Officer, or a PIA, a Privacy Impact Assessment, on breach protocols. Those are alien words before DPA, or before we came into effect. So I guess my problem is really to translate these concepts to words or explanations that can be understood by majority of our people. I come across this definition of what privacy risk is during my trip in Washington. I'd like to thank the FTC for hosting us there, but they're doing a good job in coming up with research outputs, especially University of Georgetown, where I got this meaning of what privacy risk is. So how do I explain this to the ordinary guy who is processing personal data, those who are micro, small, medium enterprises that process personal data in the Philippines? Then that is how I think one of the challenges when West meets East is how we translate this on the ground. So what is a privacy risk? So I will tell an ordinary guy it's a personal data breach and a data privacy violation that has not happened yet. So what is also what can call a privacy resilience, or what could be privacy resilience? It's a personal data breach and a data privacy violation that was prevented, or a breach in privacy disaster that did not happen. Natural disasters, well, coming from natural hazards is quite understandable. But for man-made hazards and man-made risks, disasters should not be natural. We have to be, you have to accept that for you to intervene. So, probably the best way to explain what's a disaster and what is resilience, this is a disaster. Having a wedding under a typhoon condition. And this is resilience. Living with what is offered to you and doing what is best and doing what you could do based on the situation. So that's disaster, and that is resilience. Of course, you now see the statistics of the involvement of, well, the ubiquity of the internet and social media use in the Philippines. Culturally, Filipinos are probably one of the friendliest citizens you can find. I'm sure you have had your own encounters with Filipinos and would attest to this. We are a happy people. We love to share, probably sharing everything to a fault. When we meet strangers, we love to make instant connections. We don't exactly profile you, but we just want to see if we have something in common. We do this by engaging other people, asking their personal details, not for anything else, but to make that connection, to make you feel at ease. I can see some of you nodding. I'm sure you have encountered Filipinos all over the globe. And I do not see this trait changing. Then this has actually managed us to survive in this very risky environment. And you would see that in Filipinos every time you meet them. So against this backdrop, you will now realize that, well, for the country right now, we have actually leveraged this friendliness and this sharing trait and put them to help the economy. Information technology and business process management sector is among the most important partners to our endeavors. Today, the Philippines is the contact center of the world and is fast moving up the value chain, becoming a prime outsourcing destination for software development, healthcare, game development, animation, and other outsourced services. Business process outsourcing is expected to be our largest GDP contributor by next year. And businesses that set up shop in my country process personal data on an industrial scale. Handling the personal data of citizens from a multitude of countries is actually a must for us. If we do not protect personal data, without a doubt, our economy would be affected and could actually fail. So with that, the question of whether Filipinos actually value privacy, we did a baseline survey. Well, you can see 83% of Filipinos value their rights as data subject. What is also important is that 89% or 94% is actually interested in how their data is being processed. So having said this, the National Privacy Commission was born in 2012, and it's the only law, well, coming from our Constitution that has guarantees of rights under our Bill of Rights. So a slew of provisions already in our Constitution guaranteeing the rights of citizens. It was followed up by technology-related laws like the Secrecy of Bank Deposit Act, Foreign Currency Act, Anti-Wiretapping Act, and the Anti-Photo and Video Voyeurism Act and the Data Privacy Act, which we consider technology-related laws that protect citizens' rights. The Data Privacy Act of 2012 is considered omnibus. It applies to both public and the private sector. And also, it's referenced much from the EU Directive 95 and from the APEC Privacy Framework, of which many of the concepts were also lifted. But specifically, it's the only law in the Philippines right now that enumerates the rights of data subjects. So since 2012, we have already incorporated the right to data portability in our very own law. The right to erasure or blocking is also there. And it's only now that we are breathing life into these concepts. Also, it's only the only law that specifically enumerates the obligations of personal information controllers. So we have identified this. We have 6 obligations that an information controller should pursue. So it's very important for everyone in the Philippines to realize how we are approaching this and taking a risk management approach, a prevention and mitigation approach, and building the culture of data privacy and protection. And with that, we introduce some simple concepts. Again, we actually have identified what we call the 5 pillars of compliance and accountability. And the first is appointing a data protection officer, committing to comply. Secondly is knowing your risks by conducting privacy risk and impact assessment. And the third, being accountable by creating a privacy management program. Fourth is demonstrating that compliance by implementing your privacy and data protection measures. And fifth is being prepared for breach. So we have also taken a sectoral approach. Again, if you will notice, back to your countries, if you have a Filipino community there, we love to associate. And I'm leveraging this characteristic of ours to form industry guilds, as associations, and we have identified the specific sector. So we are taking this sectoral approach. And stakeholder engagement is very, very important. So we have started conducting what we call Data Protection Officer Summit. The first summit involved government. The second one involved telcos, banks and financial institutions. We had a huge assembly for, I think this is for telcos. And we also have one for the higher education and research. So DPO1, DPO4, we are now into DPO7, and more are coming up. So we already also made our own privacy toolkit. It's available in our website. Only 3 things you could do in our website. You want to know more, you want to complain, you want to comply. Nothing else, nothing more. Very, very simple. Do visit our website. So right now, we're in our stage of building awareness, promoting a culture of privacy and data protection. And this is where we leverage the link of the West and the East much to our advantage. Aside from being under Spanish rule, we were also under the American influence for some time. And, you know, privacy is personal. Love is a very big topic, especially to our millennials. So we have coming up with campaigns, even our concept of who's a good-looking guy. The one should be tall, dark. If you will translate that, he should be fighting for your privacy rights. Okay, so and also we have enumerated it, and again, translated personal information should be like love and affection. It should only go to the right persons. So just, it's really now using again the Western influence in us to promote this privacy concept. The comic books, we've put this up online, and again, keeping in trend, it's Beauty and the Breach. Movies is also a big part of our culture. The force is strong with this one. And of course, for all our data subjects, this thing happens, it happens. Go to our complaint section. And this again resonates very clearly with our millennials. Again, the Western influence in us, and we're leveraging it for them to better understand privacy concepts. So roses are red, violets are blue. If you're a data subject, we're here for you. We also celebrated Harry Potter's birthday, the boy who protected his privacy. Overall, of course, here's the American influence, Miss Maureen. Well, a quote from Benjamin Franklin: "Laws too gentle are seldom obeyed, too severe they'll be seldom executed." We always keep this in mind. The last rule that we can share: if you can protect it, do not collect it. It's the simplest way that we can explain to our people what this is all about. Thank you, and have a good day. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Libero, as well as all other distinguished speakers for the wonderful presentation. We will now come to the second part of this session. In this West-East panel discussion, we will discuss the differences in the privacy culture between the East and the West. We are very glad to have Professor Graham Greenleaf here as the moderator of this session. Professor Greenleaf is the Professor of Law and Information System of University of New South Wales. May I now ask Professor Greenleaf to take the stage, please?
while our panellists are coming up, ladies and gentlemen, I'll just say it's a great privilege to chair this distinguished West meets East panel. The bios of our 4 distinguished panellists are, of course, in the program, and their positions speak for themselves. So we have Commissioner Falk-Pirotin, the President of CNIL in France and the new chair of the Commissioners' Conference. We have Commissioner Olhansen, the acting chair of the Federal Trade Commission in the USA, Mr. Jiadong Zhou, who's the Vice President of China Information Security Research Institute, and of course, Commissioner Wong, the Privacy Commissioner for Personal Data here in Hong Kong. Now, the format of this session is supposed to be that I've been given 5 minutes to mention a few interesting aspects of Asian privacy laws, and then it would be over to our panellists to discuss 5 topics that we've agreed on. But we're already running, I think, 3/4 of an hour behind in the whole program, and I don't think anyone will appreciate it if you get no lunch at all. So we're going to have to trim everything down by at least 20% or so. So I'll quickly give you my comments to start with, and then we'll get on with the panel discussion. I'm just starting to say that the context that we're in now, of course, the overall global context is 121 countries with data privacy laws as of September 2017. Laws with different scope covering comprehensive laws, public sector laws, private sector laws, etc. But it's becoming potential laws in countries with data privacy bills. So it's becoming a world saturated with data privacy laws. Now, one of the most interesting things that's happened very recently, the name of this 92-year-old former Indian judge, Mr. Puttaswamy, may well become as well known to us as that of Mr. Schrems. Last month, the case with his name resulted in a 9-0 decision of the Indian Supreme Court that Indians have an inalienable fundamental constitutional right to privacy, with information privacy as one of its 5 branches. So we can expect to see some major effects on India's laws, and it's one of the aspects that will distinguish India from some other countries in the region. We're all familiar with the very large financial settlements that have resulted from US FTC actions and negotiations, and with the very large fines, millions of euros, that have resulted in European countries, France, the UK, Italy and others, just in very recent times. But often Asian laws have the reputation of having fairly low enforcement standards and penalties in comparison. But this is one example that shows that's not always so. A fine of $3.8 million US imposed by the Korean Communications Commission on a large shopping mall in Korea because some Korean laws already have maximum fines of up to 3% of turnover of the companies concerned, ahead of the implementation of the GDPR, in fact. Obviously, one of the distinguishing features of the Asian region, or the APEC region, is APEC's cross-border privacy rules, of which we've heard Japan is now the 2nd full member after the USA. Now, frankly, I don't think that's of any importance at all, because Japan's law has been improved so much in 2015 that there's not any great problem for countries outside Japan, or businesses outside Japan, to export personal data to Japan anyway. The real innovation, though, of what has happened in Japan is a regulation which authorises Japanese companies to export personal data to APEC-compliant companies outside Japan, which of course just means those in the USA at present. Now, this raises a fascinating question. How is the European Union, when it's considering Japan's adequacy proposal, going to regard this onward transfer arrangement based on a lower set of standards than those found in the EU directive? I don't know the answer to that, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fascinating discussions about it. And my final point in these few quick points is the fact that from the studies that I've conducted, the standards adopted in Asian data privacy laws on average include 6 out of 10 of the factors that make the EU directive distinctive and stronger than the OECD or APEC privacy standards. So we can say Asian laws are already halfway or past halfway to the EU standards. So I think there's a lot of unusual things about Asian data privacy laws that are not fully appreciated. So that's my few minutes worth, and now we'll turn to the questions that our panellists have agreed to discuss. And the first of those is that we've heard 6 very interesting presentations from privacy commissioners around this region already this morning, and we're just going to start by any of our panellists just pointing out what they thought was most interesting out of what they heard this morning from Asian privacy commissioners. And if any of the commissioners don't want to comment on a particular issue, that's fine, but we'll just see who wants to say something. So I think, Commissioner Puritan, you had the first call on this, if you wish to say something on the topic.
Bonjour à tous. Peut-être juste une première réaction de... J'attends que tout le monde ait mis son headphones. D'abord, l'extraordinaire, ce qui m'a frappé, c'est l'extraordinaire diversité des histoires nationales, des stratégies nationales par rapport à cette question de la privacy et de la protection des données. On va revenir dans un instant sur nos différences culturelles, mais au-delà de ces différences, nous partageons des tas d'initiatives communes. L'intervention de Singapour, par exemple, qui nous parle de ce Regulatory Sandbox. Nous, à la CNIL, nous avons déjà aussi une sorte d'expérimentation régulatoire avec des acteurs pour accompagner le développement de certaines actions. Donc, on a des histoires différentes, on a des approches différentes, mais finalement, on va bricoler. Et le terme n'est pas péjoratif dans ma bouche, on va bricoler ensemble des choses communes.
Commissioner Olhausen.
Thank you so much. What I found very interesting is all the different articulations from each culture of these different values. So there were, individual rights, there were concerns about dignity, concerns about liberty, concerns about autonomy, and addressed in a wide variety of ways. So we've got private and government enforcement, sometimes a mixed system, some common law rights mixed in there, constitutional protections, and civil protections, or sometimes just civil protections. And what that sort of rich variety tells me is the important thing to focus on is how do we all interoperate when the fact is we're striving for similar kind of outcomes, I think, for all our citizens and our consumers, but we're coming at it from an approach that's very much shaped by our underlying culture, our underlying history, and then the governmental institutions that we have in place. So I think it's not going to be that we all somehow come to the same exact articulation of the value, whether you say dignity, liberty, autonomy, or what have you, but more how do we respect those values in an increasingly globalized economy.
Mr. Zhou or Commissioner Wong, would either of you like to comment on this, or will we go to the next question? Mr. Zhou?
Hello, everyone. I notice I'm the only person who is not a data protection commissioner and not a government officer in the speakers of this panel. So it's my honor to be here. To express my ideas freely, I will speak in Chinese. Okay. 今天上午呢，中方的专家也谈到了中国个人隐私保护的情况。的确，文化对个人隐私的保护会产生重要的结果。所以呢，在中国，我们长期以来，因为个人的权利在历史上呢是受到压制的，所以呢，个人信息保护的情况并不是很好。但是呢，现在情况正在发生根本性的改变。我认为这个改变是来自于经济发展的推动。因为呢，中国的数字经济发展非常快，那么随之而来的就是如何处理好安全和发展的关系。那么现在，个人信息保护已经成为制约中国数字经济发展乃至经济发展的一个重要的因素。所以呢，在去年，中国全国人大通过了《网络安全法》，列出了专门的条款保护在线的个人信息。那么中国的个人信息保护情况呢，将发生巨大的变化。因此呢，我总结，那么一个国家它个人信息保护的水平和文化有关，确实呢，也和当前的经济发展，特别是数字经济发展关系非常大。谢谢。
Thank you, Mr. Zhou. We'll now move on to our next topic, and I think Commissioner Wong has the floor on this one, as whether there are significant differences in public attitudes and privacy values between Asian and Western countries. I think as the person who framed this conference program, Commissioner Wong, you're in a good position to speak on this one.
The only point that I would like to make is that in Hong Kong, we have the benefit of both a confluence of the Eastern and the Western culture in this city. So this is an exceptional case, I would say. But the public attitude towards privacy or personal data privacy protection is still, not very clear. In that, when you ask a person in the street of Tsim Sha Tsui or Mong Kok, what about your attitude towards privacy? They always say that, yes, of course, this, if they don't want to tell you anything, they will say this is my privacy right. But they don't really understand what it really means. So the awareness has been raised. Professor Belton will tell you more about this. And when he conducted a public attitude survey a few years ago, the interesting point, correct me if I'm wrong, Professor, is that if you ask somebody in Hong Kong whether you will be willing to pay a meager amount of money in order to stop advertising going through your email system, and 90% of the respondents will say no. So this is a very different observation of the attitude of the people of Hong Kong in relation to privacy right here.
And we have a sub-question up on the screen here of if there really are large differences in attitudes, why are the principles in Asian laws so similar to the principles found in European laws? Perhaps some of our other panellists perhaps might like to comment on this. Mr. Zhou?
这个是很好的问题啊。为什么和东方，当然了，我更熟悉中国的情况哈，也确实是中国的个人信息保护的原则和实践，确实在很多地方呢和欧洲很相似。我们中国有句话叫做后发优势，就是欧洲在个人信息保护方面做得很好。那么当我们在开展这项工作的时候，我们就更多的学习世界其他国家的先进的经验，那我们就可以少走一些弯路。所以呢，我们对这方面是非常重视的，就是借鉴西方国家的经验啊，这是一个问题。但同时呢，我们也很自豪地看到，中国数字经济的发展产生了很多新的互联网应用模式的创新，互联网技术的创新，很多创新事实上在世界其他地方是没有的。因此，在我们充分地学习西方经验的同时，我们现在也在结合自己的国内数字经济的发展的情况，在不断地完善自己的相关的法律和标准。我相信呢，在这个方面，我们也会有更多的创造性的成果。谢谢。
Thanks. Well, we'll move on to our third topic, which is about whether there are really differences between East and West in the severity of enforcement or the methods of enforcement of privacy regulation. And pose the example of, for each of your jurisdictions, what would be the consequence of a data breach affecting the most sensitive information of millions of people? Commissioner Olhouse, I think we've put you down for first response on that one.
Yes, I can't think why. Yes, so obviously this is something we're dealing with right now in the U.S., and the FTC has taken the unusual step of publicly stating that we are investigating the Equifax data breach. So some of the issues there certainly are not just figuring out what happened, what may have gone wrong, but how do we mitigate the harms that may be occurring to consumers right now? So the FTC has done an enormous amount of outreach to get information into the hands of consumers for them to take steps to freeze their credit, to be prepared to try to mitigate those damages, and it's actually made us the #1 U.S. government website recently. But stepping back from that, what is the basis for investigation or enforcement here? So under the FTC Act, we have the authority to bring enforcement actions against companies if they've deceived consumers or if they've caused a substantial injury to consumers. And much of our data breach enforcement has been under that second aspect of our authority. So we've brought a number of cases against companies for having inadequate data security protections. And so what's the upshot of that? What does that mean? We've brought many enforcement actions, so between privacy and data security, over 500 cases. And in the data security area, we've required companies to undertake behavioral remedies, to change, to take better steps, to have ongoing monitoring of how they protect consumers' data, to undergo privacy audits, and to report back to the FTC, to provide to consumers data, credit monitoring, things like that. We've also brought a number of other enforcement actions outside the data security area But one on data security I want to mention that we just brought recently was against computer manufacturer Lenovo for actually having installed some, it was kind of adware that actually was a man-in-the-middle attack. So we brought an enforcement action against them. So in addition to the conduct remedies, we have also been able, under certain statutes, to get fines for companies under the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So we've gotten fines upwards of several $1 million. And then one other thing that I want to mention is our ability to work with foreign enforcers involving data breaches. So, for example, in the Ashley Madison case, we worked with our Canadian and our Australian colleagues to address that and to try to remedy that.
Thank you. And here in Hong Kong, Commissioner Wong, how does the situation compare if you're faced with a massive data breach?
First, we don't have class actions here in Hong Kong, although discussions about the possibility of initiating class actions of this sort, relating to massive number of people affected as a result of certain wrong done. In our case, certain data breaches are being canvassed now. So we wait and see. But in our law, if the person or the aggrieved party suffers damage as a result of the data breach, they are entitled to, under the law, to ask for compensation. If there is a case of this kind, my office will offer legal assistance to help those aggrieved parties, to pursue, or to institute proceedings, for compensation from a particular organization who is responsible for this serious data breach.
Peut-être un point d'actualité sur la situation des data breach et plus largement des sanctions en Europe. Comme vous le savez, dans le GDPR, il y a une disposition qui étend cette obligation de notifier les data breach du secteur actuel des télécommunications à l'ensemble des controllers. Et comme tous les autres manquements possibles, ce type d'obligation peut être sanctionné jusqu'à hauteur de 4% du chiffre d'affaires mondial. Donc ça veut dire qu'en Europe, cette question des data breach, compte tenu de ce qui s'est passé dernièrement dans tous les pays, est prise très sérieusement et qu'on attire vraiment l'attention des acteurs sur la nécessité de se doter d'une culture de la sécurité, culture qui, dans bien des cas, n'existe pas suffisamment au sein des entreprises. Et l'autre élément que je voulais partager avec vous, c'est que, toujours en Europe, vous allez avoir face à vous, d'une certaine manière, des régulateurs qui seront désormais coordonnés. Puisque, comme vous le savez, à travers le one-stop shop et à travers le consistency, c'est-à-dire la procédure de coopération entre les 28 autorités européennes, celles-ci auront la possibilité de co-décider ensemble sur les manquements, que ce soit les data breach ou que ce soit d'autres manquements. Donc ça donne à la communauté des régulateurs une capacité d'action qui est considérable et qui est considérablement, je pense, renforcée par rapport à la situation aujourd'hui.
Good. Thank you. Well, we only have at most a few minutes left before we must adjourn for lunch, or we'll have some very upset conference organisers. So I think we'll jump ahead to the next question of interoperability of different data protection regimes, and some of the possibilities are listed on the slide there. And the question was, from each jurisdiction's perspective, do any of these offer useful paths to interoperability? I think since you spoke last, we'll give you second go in a moment. And Commissioner Olhausen, would you like to have first shot at that one?
Absolutely. So I mentioned interoperability right at the beginning, and that is a very important a principle for the U.S. system. So we've actively participated in the APEX regional interoperability system, the cross-border privacy rules, and also we have the Privacy Shield agreement with the EU. We just had our review last week on that. The FTC is very committed to making sure that works. We've recently just brought 3 cases against companies that had started the process and not completed it, but hadn't removed their claims that they were compliant. So interoperability is very important. And also I want to mention that for our enforcement, we say that while you can outsource your data, you can't outsource your responsibility. So we've actually brought enforcement action against companies that made promises to consumers in the U.S. And then outsourced the data and didn't comply with those promises with the way the data was handled. So I think it's not, interoperability regimes are important, but also the promises kind of go where the data goes as well.
This is obviously such an important question. We'll give all 4 of our panellists the opportunity to have their say. I think you were scheduled to speak second. Would you like to wait until Mr. Zhou has his opportunity to say something?
互操作性这个词啊，我确实很熟悉，因为很多年以来，中国在制定自己的国家标准的时候，总是呢有很多国外的团体、企业来给我们提到互操作性这个词，就是你要加强互操作性，你要更多的引用国际标准。我觉得他们说的很对，但是在国内我们研究数据保护和个人信息保护这个问题的时候，我确实是没有看到更多的已经实现了互操作的一些成熟的方法，包括一些成熟的标准。所以我觉得呢，在个人信息保护领域啊，互操作性这个问题可能还有很长的路要走，这是我第一个观点啊。第二个观点呢，就是在实现数据保护方法的互操作性的时候，要充分的听取多利益相关方的意见。这个是外国朋友跟我讲的，因为每次我们中国的政策在制定的时候，外国朋友都跟我们讲，一定要多听取多利益有关方的意见。那么在数据保护领域，我认为呢，一个重要的多利益有关方就是中国的互联网的企业，因为我们具有丰富的、源源不断的创新的动力，也有很多创新的成果。事实上呢，现在我看到很多国家和地区的他们的个人信息保护的一些方法，可能在中国的这场景里面，可能还不完全适用。就是我们产生了一些新的场景，这些新的场景还没有答案。所以这个我理解，也是为什么今天在座的大厅里面有很多来自中国大陆的企业，因为他们非常关注国际这方面的进展，非常关注在其他地方的世界其他地方的合规性。所以我认为要充分的听取这些最具有产业实践经验的企业他们的意见啊，这是我的一个观点。谢谢。
Good. So, Commissioner Falk-Perriton, you're next, and then Commissioner Wong has the last word after that.
Merci. Je crois que l'interopérabilité, c'est absolument fondamental. Nous sommes dans un univers qui est maintenant global, et que ce soit au nom des besoins des entreprises qui veulent un cadre global pour leur échange de données, que ce soit au nom des individus qui consomment des services worldwide, il faut que nous soyons capables de leur donner de l'interopérabilité, c'est-à-dire de la sécurité au-delà de leurs frontières nationales ou régionales. Alors, Maureen l'a dit, il y a toute une série d'outils qui sont actuellement sur la table. Ces outils sont extrêmement complexes. À part les experts de la salle, je ne suis pas sûre que les entreprises et que les individus se repèrent dans les BCR, CBPR, dans le Privacy Shield, dans l'Adequacy. Donc ce sont des outils ultra sophistiqués. Je crois qu'il faut que collectivement, nous essayons de simplifier d'une manière ou d'une autre. Alors, est-ce que c'est une convention internationale? Ce serait formidable, mais ça va prendre un peu de temps. Il faut trouver en tout cas un moyen d'aller dans ce sens-là. Et en tout cas, au niveau des autorités de protection des données, nous avons un outil, c'est celui de la conférence mondiale. En tant que nouvelle présidente, moi, il me semble que cette conférence mondiale, c'est un laboratoire, dans le fond, de l'interopérabilité. C'est là où nous pouvons justement échanger nos idées, nos solutions, de façon peut-être plus simple que des législateurs, parce que c'est difficile en tant que législateur de se mettre d'accord. En tant que régulateur, c'est plus facile. Donc, il me semble que cette conférence est un bon instrument pour travailler à faire avancer l'interopérabilité d'une façon concrète. Et en tout cas, ce sera quelque chose qui me tiendra personnellement beaucoup à cœur.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Wong, you have the last word before lunch.
Yeah, the word is in singular, so I won't say too much on this point, but I would like to highlight the point that recently we are seriously considering attempts to find common elements in regional agreements, requirements like APEC, CPBR. I think this is the trend that we try to pay more attention to finding a more common elements in this region. Of course, our law was based on the OECD and the EU 95 directives, but we keep abreast of the developments in the region as well.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause to our panellists.